Are you both from the same area?
No, so I'm from Warrington. It's the one brought me in Jesse's from Stoke.
From Stoke?
Yeah.
How did
You
you
said
meet?
that with the judging.
I was at Crewe.
You were a Crewe?
I was at Crewe,
Okay.
yeah, so it's quite close to Stoke.
Yeah.
Yeah. My uncle used to play for the academy.
She stayed at the ends, basically.
No, I didn't know. I did, but he'd already been liking all my pictures. It's not like I just came out of nowhere.
Should we go?
Yeah, let's go for it, yeah.
So, Owen, Jessica, thank you very much for inviting us into your home today. I guess firstly, moving to Oxfordshire in January, I'm sure a bit of a whirlwind time, but how have you settled into the area?
Yeah, we've settled in really. We love the area. We settled in quite easily, to be honest. It was nice to kind of get a fresh start for both of us. And yeah, we absolutely love it here. You know, we've loved our time here, obviously. Since me being here in the January, you know, we went up in the playoffs, and that was obviously amazing. So yeah, it's been an amazing time since coming here.
Brilliant. So let's get on to why we're here today. So if you could just tell us about your story of your loss firstly, take us back to the beginning of the news, and just take us through that process if you could.
So it was actually Owen who was really excited for another at the start and convinced me. He's always wanted a big family and two quite close in age, and the dream was to have two little boys that could be best friends. And yeah, it came quite quick, didn't it? But we were really excited. It was just a really happy time, to be fair. You know, like I said, we didn't have to wait too long. You know, luckily Jess got pregnant quite quickly, and yeah, it was just a normal start to a pregnancy. We were both over the moon, happy and preparing ourselves for 200.
It was actually a bit more relaxed, wasn't it, than the first time, because with Xavier was unplanned.
Yeah.
So we felt like we'd got a lot more experience and...
We were more ready, weren't we, this time? You know.
Yeah, it was actually planned.
There was more planning to it, and it was on our terms, and yeah, we were just happy and couldn't wait to get going with it, really.
I guess, at what stage did you start to notice things weren't 100%?
Well, to be fair, we didn't. He was quite lively, wasn't he? He was always kicking, Grayson, he was always kicking, and we could feel him. So we didn't really know there was anything wrong at all until, you know, we had the 12-week scan, and that was, everything was fine, wasn't it?
Yeah, it wasn't until the 20-week scan that a lot of people have asked me that question, like if you had any inkling that anything was amiss, but definitely not. It was, if anything, like I say, probably a bit of naivety, because everything went so perfectly with Xavier. You kind of take things for granted, and I'd already had one healthy pregnancy, so I guess I just assumed that there'd be no problem whatsoever. So I think that's where the shock did come in with the 20-week scan, isn't it? Because it's said that after the 12-week scan that everything's safe, that's when you can announce. Which is weird thinking back when the 20 weeks actually the anomaly scan. So you'd think it'd be 20, but yeah.
Yeah, and it was just, we went into the 20-week scan as normal, really, didn't we? And
yeah, you couldn't go in,
I couldn't go in because I had Xavier. So
Xavier wasn't allowed in there.
He had to sit outside for the first bit, and then obviously we could come in
so
afterwards.
I think you were excited, weren't you?
Yeah. And yeah, like I said, we had no inkling that there was anything wrong, and then obviously we went in Jessica went into the 20-week scan, and
the lady kind of just said, she was chatting to me as normal, and then she just said, let me just go and get your partner before I speak to you, and she hadn't said anything at this point, so a face changed, and I said, is everything okay? Is there anything wrong? And she just went, I think she put a hand on my shoulder and just said, I'll just go and get your partner. So at that point I knew, but he comes in with a big smile on his face.
Yeah.
Just like thinking that he's coming in for the end part of the scan.
I was super excited to see the scan, and came in with Xavier, and then, you know, straight away you just get a feeling something's off with the way the nurse or midwife was, and obviously I seen Jess was a little bit upset. She was kind of left in the lurch a bit. She didn't know exactly, but obviously the nurse did the right thing. She wanted to tell us.
Yeah,
together.
I'm glad she got you, yeah.
Yeah, and then, yeah, you know, she just they said there's some complications with Grayson. Obviously, for us, we want to keep exactly what was wrong private because we don't want him to be remembered in that way. You know, he's still our baby
And
boy.
also
And
every loss is
different, yeah.
just
you know.
as bad as the next.
Yes,
like,
yeah.
it doesn't matter what it is, the reasoning, it feels the same way. Obviously, it's very different for a lot of different people.
Yeah. About
2 weeks
2 weeks later, we fortunately we lost Grayson, and yeah, it happened quite quickly, and it was a bit of a shock, wasn't it? But it was one of them things where, in these cases, it's nobody's fault. There's, you know, you always look for reasons why, and it's just one of them things. There's no reasons why, and yeah, it was a really tough moment. But you know, we kind of come closer through it, didn't we? Really, and
Yeah.
you know, took on each other's stresses, and but yeah, it just happened very quickly, and it was kind of, you know, taken back by the whole thing, really.
Such heartbreaking news at the time, and even now, I'm sure. What impact did that have on you both and your sort of wider family?
You want to go first?
I think for us, it brought us a lot closer together, a lot closer to Xavier, because we realised how fragile life is. But two people, even if you're grieving over the same child, the same baby, grieve in totally different ways, and it can cause problems in relationships when one person wants to grieve in one particular way and the other is a totally different person and grieves in their own way. But I think we just respected that of each other, didn't we? Like, you wanted to go straight back into football.
Yeah.
So rather than trying to keep you at home, because I just kind of wanted to isolate and just have time to... What I didn't want is for it to creep back up on me in the future when I was to have another, or I wanted to make sure that I'd worked through it, and Owen allowed me to do that whilst he went straight back in, and I just got some family up, didn't I?
Yeah, Jess's close family, obviously my family were also there, very supportive, but Jess's close family actually came up and stayed with Jess, and for me, I think I kind of went into almost like an autopilot mode where maybe I struggled accepting it, but it was also, I also have Jess and Xavier still that I need to, you know, support and protect, and I think it didn't really hit me till maybe when the dust settled a little bit, a couple of weeks later. But for me, it was like, right, I didn't want to make obviously a horrible situation even worse by having loads of time off. I still had a family to support, which I think for a lot of the men in this situation, they probably will feel the same.
People have said that too,
yeah,
haven't they?
you know,
They just wanted to get back on.
Yeah, a lot of people reached out, but yeah, just get back to...
And it got me out of the house. That was the first time I came out, when I came to watch that Blackpool game. And you scored in that game as well, didn't you?
Yeah, fortunately.
It's funny how footballers score when there's something like meaningful on the day. Like, I knew he was going to score, and I was just sat there. I was still in like my own little bubble, but I just sat on my own and I was watching, and I thought, I know he's going to score this game.
I think definitely the first day I went back in, I remember the drive in was hard.
You were a bit nervous as well.
Yeah, I was a bit nervous going back in because obviously I know the whole team had been made aware of what happened. But yeah, the drive in was tough. I think I cried pretty much the whole way in. But again, football just kind of, in a way, took my mind off it and allowed me to have that little break, and then I was able to come back and be there for Jessica. But yeah, I think for that time I was at the club, it kind of put me in autopilot, and I don't know, something about being around the lads, and it really helped me.
And for you, Jessica, you said your family came down to support you, but was there any other support at the time that you were aware of that sort of helped the situation that you had to deal with?
So for me, a couple of things. Xavier was my biggest, because he was only one at the time. And I always remember thinking, how do people deal with this when they're going home without a baby? Because for me, all that love that I wanted to pour into Grayson, I just poured extra into Xavier, because he was still a baby, still in nappies, just a little 1-year-old. I think he was... He couldn't even walk.
I don't think he was 1 yet, was he?
Yeah, he was.
Was he just turned 1?
Yeah, it'd been his first birthday. I think he was literally just walking, so he was still a baby. It did give me like a little bit of anxiety. Again, you expect that when people are grieving, they just cry. But for me, it was more anxiety of something else going wrong or something going wrong with Xavier. So I didn't send Xavier to nursery for a while. I wanted to pull him out, didn't I? But my family just urged me not to take it too far and try and get back into normality.
Yeah.
But I kept him off for a little bit, and he was my biggest form of therapy. But
Maybe for both of us as well.
Yeah, it was for you as well. But in terms of actual support, there are a lot of charities, and there's processes in place that I didn't even know existed. So even after our scan, they didn't just let us go straight home. You go into another room where people come and talk to you, and kind of if you've got any questions, or they almost just keep reiterating the fact of like how small the percentages are, and that it's not anything that you've done or your fault, which was really good, to be fair, because I think if we'd have just gone home without that conversation, it would have been, you start thinking about it, in what way did I cause this to happen, and try and find everything that you might have done in the whole pregnancy. So that really helped. And then they give you, there's so many different charities you've got. I know the main one is probably Tommy's charity, but you can call them, they have helplines, and they were a help.
Yeah. A list of all them as well, didn't they, really?
One thing that I found was that there was hardly anything for men, and Owen, at one point, we kind of kept swapping, didn't we? We found that when I was really struggling, he'd like kind of be there for me, and then when he was struggling, we just kept kind of switching. And when it was times where he was down, I remember speaking to the charities and things that I was speaking to and saying, can my partner call up? Like, is there something that he can do? And I remember them just saying like, it is for the mums, but, you know, if he wanted to listen into a call. And I was just really shocked by that. But I do think I've done some research since, and there's one that I saw called Daddy's Angels. So I'm not entirely sure. I'd have to research exactly what it was.
Yeah.
But I do think there might be something out there, but it's definitely
There's
not
not
even
much.
a smidge of what it is for women.
No, I think, you know, fortunately for me, I had lads at football, the team, and that kind of, you know, camaraderie, if I might say. But there was lads who had been through the same situation, who I was able to kind of lean on. So I was in a very fortunate position. But I don't think there is enough out there, because obviously the women are obviously first protocol, and they do need to be protected, because it is a huge loss. But it's also a huge loss for the man. You know, they're
both
just
the parents at
both
the end
parents
of the
at the end of the day. And I think always in football, when something like that and a tragedy does happen, I think football always seems to band together. But also not everyone's in football, and I always think, you know, for people in different jobs, in more solitude jobs, it must be really tough, and there isn't enough support out there. Like I said, we think obviously if that Daddy's Angels charity, I never used it because of the support I did have.
I didn't actually hear about it at that time. Nobody told us about it, did they? It's only since I've been looking more recently.
Yeah. But yeah, it was a super stressful
We kind of thought, like, if we
situation.
can make it through something as terrible as that, we know that we can get through basically anything that life throws our way. But also, we appreciate life just as much as each other now. Appreciate everything that we do have.
I think it definitely taught us how delicate life can be. I think you always think these things are that would never happen to me, or you think it doesn't happen as often as it does. I think obviously when it did happen, towards the amount of people that actually reached out, you know.
It's like a secret community, isn't it? Almost like community nobody wants to be a part of.
Yeah,
like,
you know, other footballers, fans
reached out as well, which actually helped.
Random strangers who been through the same thing, who reach out, and it does bring a massive comfort. And I think, you know, raising awareness like this way might make that community just a little bit bigger. And, you know, we talk about the charities that are there for support, but also, you know, other human beings who have been through the same thing. I found huge comfort in that, when people would kind of share their story with me, and you'd have that conversation and you'd talk openly about, you know, in our case it was Grace and
their babies
as well, and they're not just forgotten about or gone. They're very much part of the family still, which I thought was a massive comfort for me and Jessica personally.
Yeah.
And how do you deal with that grief now, over a year since you heard the news?
I I think it's the same with any kind of grief. Some days it feels heavier than others. So it's just been Grayson's 1 year anniversary, and also it was in October, so October is Baby Loss Awareness Month anyway, so it's almost like that comes and then there's a lot of reminders everywhere.
Yeah.
I know even, football is so all-consuming, which was great and is still great as a distraction. And it was the exact same when it was Grayson's anniversary, the Portsmouth game, and we were staying in separate hotels again. So it's just about, I don't know, like just managing your emotions through the times where it feels a bit heavier, but also like feeling it in those times and not suppressing it. And then it starts to feel lighter again. And in generally speaking though, like we could talk about him every day and not cry or...
Yeah, it's not always a sad conversation. You know. Obviously, I think it was 22 weeks that we had Grayson for, but 22 weeks we'd rather have had than
And
none
also,
at
it
all.
doesn't matter how many weeks
Yeah, whether it's,
you are as well. As soon as you see a positive pregnancy test, or even in some instances, people who are having fertility issues and they lose an embryo, they're so attached to the idea of that embryo becoming a baby, and
it means just as much at week 1 than it does at week, well, what's it go up to?
Or stillborn,
30,
or SIDS is also one of them. There's just so many different avenues. I think I was nervous to talk about it today because I think it's more that people don't know how to approach it or react. I worry that I might make somebody else feel uncomfortable, even though I don't, because they don't quite know what to say. But when I've looked on Tommy's, I think this week it said that it's 1 in 2 people. So you probably know a lot of people who've been through it that maybe wouldn't even speak about it.
Yeah.
And I think that was what shocked us, because I was searching online when it happened to me, trying to find the most similar experience to me, or trying to find somebody that I could relate to. Like Owen would literally be telling me to go to bed and I'd be like, I'm just looking on the internet, see if I can find anything.
But that was also Jessica's piece. That's how she dealt with some of her grief. And that's where you've got to kind of let your partner be in that situation. I know for me...
You wanted to get your sleep and crack on with the next day.
A lot of mine came out in a frustration because there was nothing I could have done about the situation. I couldn't protect Jessica or Grayson, or it's almost that feeling of helplessness. Where for Jess, it was more of a, obviously we're very sad, but she felt the sadness of it and the loss of it. And
I wanted to just research. I remember just wanting to research all the time, find a reason. But like, I was looking for things like this. So when the club approached us, like, I've been so nervous, but at the same time, this is what I was looking for. So if we could be that person for somebody else.
Yeah.
Brilliant. And finally, I guess, how do we go about improving the awareness around this topic?
I think things like this, people talking about it.
Sharing their stories, because everyone's is so different. There's no 2 stories that are the same from what I've seen.
No.
Like even ectopic pregnancies, like all sorts of different things. Sometimes it's more of a risk for the mum or for the baby, or there's just, I think it is a taboo and it shouldn't be, especially when it happens so often. A lot of people don't actually get to the point that we were, so that means that, if they haven't announced it, they might choose to just not ever speak about it.
Not acknowledge it.
Yeah, but I think that could well have been us. If we'd have lost Grayson before we'd announced, we may well have never spoken about it. Because it shouldn't, but like, especially as the mum, like I say, there is a little bit of, there shouldn't be, but guilt, and you try and
find a way to blame yourself, really. I know you did, yeah.
You wouldn't want to necessarily go and say it to the world, but because we were 22 weeks, everybody knew I had such a bit visible bump that it would have been almost weirder
not to say anything.
At all. So we kind of just had to do it. And
no, I think there does just need to be more awareness about it. I think there's a lot more people who've been through it, and I think you only know about the support if you go through it. I think, you know,
Yeah.
like you say, we talk quite openly about Grayson, and that's comforting for us. I think a lot of other people would find it comforting who are in a similar situation.
Yeah, bringing up their name. I
yeah.
remember when it happened, and anybody who messaged me saying like, sorry for your loss, obviously I appreciated it so much, but if someone said something about Grayson specifically or used his name, it almost like validates your feelings and makes you, you know, like he is a real person.
Yeah.
And other people are aware of that too, and they're using his name, and it's not just almost like,
Yeah.
oh, sorry for your loss and let's not talk about it. It's like anyone who said that, I was like, that's really kind.
I think from our personal opinion, I would say that people do want to speak about the babies that they've lost, the child that they've lost. I don't think
They don't want to be forgotten.
they don't want them to be forgotten. So I think things like this, just raising awareness, just making it not such a, almost like a taboo subject to speak about it, which it shouldn't be. It's one of those things where no one's to blame. There's nothing you can do about it. It happens. It's horrific to go through, but it should definitely be spoken about more, because I think people would find a lot of comfort in each other. I know I did to people who reached out to me. It really did help me get through it, because you don't hear about it so much. When it happens to you, you almost think like
You're the only one.
you're the only one it's happened to.
Like, what's wrong with us?
And it's not. It's quite a regular thing, and it's a horrific thing. So I think there should be. But I don't think there could be a limit to how much support and how much it can be talked about, really.
Well, Jessica, Owen, thank you for having us here today and
Thanks
opening
for
up and
coming.
being so honest and sharing your story. And like you said, hopefully it can help others who are sort of watching this today.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you
Cheers.
so much.
Thank you.
Gonna dance?
Can Daddy dance, eh? Huh? Can Daddy dance? Yeah.
Whoa. Cool. Want me to hold it for you? Pardon? Mac
Not every
truck.
track, man.
He thinks that's a green map. Want me to hold them?
He's full. What about that one? What's that one?
Big.
What's it called? What's that one called?
T-Rex?
T-Rex.
Okay, his head when he's just one. Yeah, just
Say
one.
please.
Retreat. Two. One.
He goes 2 or 4. Thanks, Dad.
Dad.
How do you think you're so
He's got-
old?
I was going to say, you sound about 12 there. Thanks, Dad.
He actually says my name. He's got into a habit of going, Owen.
Yeah.
Not
If he
answering
doesn't, he
to it.
tries Daddy first. If he doesn't answer, he knows through watching me that Owen works, and he goes, Owen. He's even shortened it now to O. O.
You gonna eat it or am I eating it?